Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I have an amazing guest today. Her name is Megan O'Malley, and she is a musician. And not only a musician, she is a musician in a circus. While I was looking around for guests, I found a post she did on Quora, Quora.com. It is a great question and answer site, and she had answered a question about why she loves her job. Well, you can hear from her today why she does love her job, and it is a cool job. At the end of the interview, she even gives you a way to contact her. So stay tuned, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this just as much as me.
Hi, Megan. Welcome to the I Love My Job podcast. I want to thank you for coming on today and give you a moment. If you could introduce yourself and tell where you live, or what you live in this case, and a little bit about your personal life.
Okay. Hi, Cassie. Thank you for having me. Well, I have run away and joined the circus, and so I live on a train. And it's not just an ordinary train, but it is a mile-long passenger train. It's owned by Ringling Brothers, and it's pulled around the country to the various cities that we play on tour. And each train car has little apartments inside, and I live in one of those apartments.
Wow, that's very interesting. And do you stay in those rooms all the time, or do you ever stay at any hotels for any reason?
Probably about 150 to 200 people live on the train, and then the other 100 or so live in RVs, or they have a contract with the company where the company pays for their hotel rooms. And that just depends on the type of job that you do within the circus. And so I'm a musician, and so my contract says that I get one, I think 7x7 stateroom on the train. So that's where I live.
Wow. Okay. So tell me in a few sentences about your job. You just mentioned you were a musician.
Yeah, I went to school for music, and so what I do for Ringling is I play in the band. Ringling Brothers has two tours, and one is called the Red Unit and the other is called the Blue Unit, and they alternate cities every other year. And so right now the Red Unit is in Houston, while the Blue Unit has just started a new show called Out of This World, and they're starting in Fresno, California this year. Actually, I think they're in LA this week. And so we alternate cities, but anyway, each unit has a band consisting of 9 members. And so I'm one of the members of the band on the Red Unit. So what I do every show, we have a 2-hour show, is I play the trombone. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. It's about 2 hours worth of playing, which any brass player will tell you that's kind of a lot of playing. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of different styles of music. So it's a good time every time.
And the how often does the musical set change? Is it the same one all year?
You mean the music itself?
Yeah.
Or,
yes.
The music doesn't change very much. As you may or may not know, the Elephants were taken off the tour recently, and so when that happened, we did have to remove that music from our show and also shuffle the music around a little more just to cover that hole where they had been. And so the music really doesn't change unless something goes wrong in general. So we just always, every show, we have a piece called emergency music that we have ready to play if something goes wrong. But typically, nothing goes wrong, fingers crossed. But circus,
Okay.
So anything can happen.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me about what kind of education you had to have, or schooling or training to obtain this job specifically.
Okay. Pretty much I went to school just for music. And so after I had graduated, I applied everywhere that had any music openings whatsoever. It's really hard to get a full-time job in music, not going to lie. And so when I was studying, I studied classical music, specifically trombone. And so my education was School of the Arts in North Carolina. I got a master's degree. And then before that, I went to Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And in both schools, I got degrees in music performance. And after graduating, like I said, I just applied around everywhere that I could. And the circus just happened to be one of the places that I thought to apply. They don't advertise that they need musicians, really, but I just thought, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. I had heard that they use live musicians. And so really the background that you have, if you're going to be a musician in the circus or anywhere really, any kind of show. Just it's a good idea to have a degree in music and then to get as much experience in that field as possible, whether it's playing for a local band or an orchestra or, some school band that's been put together, all kinds of things you can do to gain experience before you actually end up getting a paid job in music, which is, like I said, a little harder to get.
So did it require the master's, or was that just additional for the other jobs you were also applying for?
It didn't really require a master's, and to be honest, I'm not sure how much my degrees played into it. I think when you're applying for music jobs in general, it's a good idea to have a degree in music. This is just so that whoever you're applying to knows that you've got some training and some background, so that they know that you'll have musicianship and you'll comport yourself well on the job. But in addition to that, just as valuable as that is experience. So like on my unit, among the 9 of us, there are a lot of us who have cruise ship experience and who only have undergraduate degrees. I don't think we have anybody right now who doesn't have a college degree. But there are varying levels of experience here, and I don't think a degree is absolutely necessary to get this job. You just have to prove that you can really handle the job and play the part, and that's what's most important here in this particular gig.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, and that was a great explanation of the kind of job experience you need. So you had lots of different types of experience as you went through your schooling, but was this your first official job out of college?
As a full-time musician, yes. I did have, like most musicians, I had, I guess, paying gigs here and there. So, the church would have a Christmas service or an Easter service, and they may hire musicians for that. And so you get paid for a Sunday. Another thing I did was work at local amusement parks. My very first music job, my actual seasonal music job, was at Knoebels Amusement Resort, and that's up in Elysburg, Pennsylvania. It's a really small park. So I did that for summers, and it was summers only, 3 months at a time. And it didn't pay great, but it was definitely great for a young musician starting out. And I know that Disney, Six Flags, other parks also offer similar opportunities for young people. And so that's kind of where I got my start. So I had that experience, and then I also ended up playing at Busch Gardens. They're also seasonal. It was Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so this was all seasonal work, but it did eventually lead up to, I believe it led up to the job that I have now, as far as giving me relevant experience and just preparing me in general for what a long-term gig would be like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you give me a broad salary range of what musicians would earn for this type of job or other jobs in the field?
Yeah, sure. Usually, well, for this job, it's AFM job, which is the American Federation of Musicians, and that is the musicians' union. And not all musical jobs are going to be unionized, and so pretty much I would say that for this job, we're considered what's called quote-unquote union scale, which is we're paid via union pay scale. Pay here also depends on seniority. So, for example, my boss, who's been here for 20 years, I can't even begin to guess what he makes, to be honest. And on the other hand, our trumpet player, who just recently joined, makes a starting salary. So I would say weekly, we probably average anywhere between $700 to anywhere over $1,000 a week. And how many weeks that is may vary. Usually it's 11 months out of the year. Currently our schedule's undergoing some shift, and so it's just however many weeks plus a little extra pay for holidays and such like that. So yeah, I'd say between $700 and $1,000 a week.
Okay. Tell me about your typical day or week, or I guess in this case a week. How many days do you work? How many days do you get off? And if you could talk about what you do when you're not working.
Sure. A typical week for us is we arrive in a city, which we did yesterday, and today is what we call a dark day, and that's a theater term for a day in which there are no shows, and a day in which our sets are not being set up or anything like that. So anyway, what happens when we get to a city is we unload all the materials off the train, all of our staging and lighting and rigging, all that stuff, and we bring it to the arena where we're going to play. So all that stuff gets taken to the arena, and we have crew members who set up all of our equipment, and this can take anywhere from usually between 8 and 12 hours to load into an arena. So once that's done, the next day we'll have our opening day. And on opening day, we come in and have a meeting before anything starts. And that's where they just tell us any details about the city that we're in, where the nearest first aid or hospital is, if there are any notes for the week. Like, for example, if the animals are going to be housed close to us backstage, they want to let us know that so that we're not getting too close or that we're not bothering the animals. Any important relevant notes they'll give us during the meeting. And then after that, we'll usually have our opening day rehearsal. And so for rehearsal, we'll usually go over some normal things. We'll go through a couple of the acts, sometimes not the full act, just enough for people to get a feel for the new arena and for the animals to get used to it. So we'll do that, and then sometimes we rehearse what's called Plan B rehearsals, and that is when we practice for in case something goes wrong or in case something's different in the show. And one example of this is the tiger cage, which is housed in the ceiling. And so if for some reason the tiger cage were to get stuck in the ceiling instead of coming down at the appropriate time so that the tigers could get in there, we need to have a Plan B in place so that while they're fixing that problem, something else can be going on to entertain the audience. So we'll practice little things like that just to make sure that if something happens, we'll be ready for it. So our rehearsals usually don't go over 2 hours, and after that we've usually got an hour or two before the show. So during that time we can go walk around the city if there's anything to see, get some food, eat dinner, and then we start pre-show. And pre-show is what happens before the show. It's when a lot of performers are out on the arena floor and ticket holders can come down and meet the performers, maybe have some programs signed, get your face painted, all kinds of fun stuff you can do during pre-show. And you'll get to see acts that are not presented in the main show. So that's one of the cool things about pre-show. But after pre-show, then our show starts, and it's about 2 hours long with anywhere from a 15 to 20-minute intermission. So the show goes on, we play the show, and after that, we go back to the train and chill out. And depending on how many shows we have the next day, some people will go out on the town and enjoy whatever the city has to offer, or maybe everybody's really tired and just goes back to the train. So that's kind of how it goes for the entire week. Weekends we'll have more shows. We can have up to 3 shows per day on Saturdays or Sundays. So that's what we call a 6-pack, when you have 3 on a Saturday and 3 on a Sunday. And that's a lot of playing, and it's 6 hours per day of performing. So it's pretty intense, and people can get pretty tired. But, after that, we pack everything up, and loading out of the arena can take anywhere, I'd say, from 4 to 8 hours, like slightly shorter than loading in. And then we load everything onto the train and get moving to the next city and wash, rinse, repeat.
Do you have other things that you have to help out with besides, of course, just your own instrument?
Well, I'm lucky. The band does not currently participate in loading in or loading out. We do have one member who does do that, but this is what we call cherry pie work, and that's an old circus slang term for just any extra work. So we do have one member who got in on that when it was first offered, and since then it's not really been offered to band members as much anymore. But one thing I used to do for extra money was to do the elephant walks, which was when the elephants would walk from the train to the arena, they needed volunteers to hold a rope to keep people who came out to see the elephants on the sidewalk. And so I would do this. It was like a little extra money and then some lunch they would give you for doing this. But mostly I wanted to do it because I got to walk next to the elephants. So that was a really fun, I guess, cherry pie job that you could say that I had.
I'm sure you probably then missed the elephants. I hadn't heard about the elephants not being in the circus anymore.
Yeah, they were taken off the road in May. And so, we all really missed them, but it was the company's decision. And so, that's how it goes. And they're being taken very good care of at the Center for Elephant Conservation down in Florida. So I'm hoping to get to see some of my favorite elephants again.
When you guys are back in the area.
Yeah, it's not open to the public yet, but we're hoping that at some point it will be, and then maybe we'll get to drop in.
So let's turn to more interesting parts about the job. Tell me a funny or interesting story of something that happened to you on the job. So you probably have a lot to pick from.
I have a lot to choose from, but there are only so many that are rated PG. Let's see. I think probably one of the funniest things that happened to me directly was back when the elephants were here. There was an elephant named Baby, and she was awesome, really cool elephant, just very chill all the time. And during one part of the show, her elephant tub, it's kind of like a little stool for an elephant, would be placed next to the bandstand, and it was placed pretty close to me. And so I had the pleasure of standing next to Baby for a certain part of the show. And Baby would spin on her tub and then go off to another part of the arena to do another part of the show. So over time, whoever was rolling her tub out onto the floor just kept kind of unintentionally putting it pretty close to the bandstand. And one day it was awfully close to me, and the handler came up to me and said, "Hey, I know this is kind of getting a little close to you. Do you mind?" And I felt very brave and very proud, that I get to stand next to an elephant. And so I was like, no, put it as close as you like. I don't mind. And me and my big mouth, because the next show, the tub was right next, like up against the bandstand. And here comes Baby, and I'm playing the music, and I know the elephant tub is too close. And I'm thinking, oh no. So Baby gets up on the tub, and she goes to do her spin, and she is so close to me that she has to lift her head to get past me during her spin. And I just feel this hot elephant breath on top of my head, and like the tip of her trunk touching the top of my head. And I couldn't keep playing. I had to stop playing. And my eyes were probably as big as saucers, and I just looked over at her handler, who was just laughing. And after that, I was like, you could move her a couple more inches away, maybe, might be good. But she was an awesome elephant, and that was one of my close encounters with elephant kinds there. But yeah.
Was she was called Baby, but was she full size, full grown?
Oh yeah, she was. I'm not sure why her name was Baby. Some of them had really funny names. There used to be an elephant on the show called Banana, who I never got to meet, but I've heard stories about Banana. So it took me a while to realize that we were talking about an elephant and not a piece of fruit. So, yeah, some have funny names and some have normal names. Some have really exotic names. It's just, I guess, whoever names them tries to pick one that goes with their personality. So I don't know what Baby did to get the name Baby. I'm curious. I'll have to find that out someday.
Well, I'm sure you do. I'm assuming it's a her?
Yep.
Okay. Sure you miss her?
Yeah.
It sounds like a fantastic job that you have, but is there anything that you dislike about your job or just are not keen on doing when you have to do it?
Yeah, for the most part, I really love this job. One of the hardest things about it, I think, is the fact that we live on a train. And sometimes that's really romantic and really cool, and you get to see a lot of the countryside, and it can be really fun. But other times, it's kind of a pain. And that happens when, as I was telling you before this interview started, we can sometimes unexpectedly lose power. We can have climate control issues. We can lose water. It's pretty much like camping. So you just have to be prepared for that. And if you're not prepared for that, that's going to be a big struggle for you. So that's a little inconvenient, and also sometimes not being able to take breaks or vacations whenever you'd like, because, I mean, this is true of all entertainment businesses, really. It's like holidays or the season, when everybody wants to go see a show. Mm-hmm. So we don't always get to pick and choose when we get to go home and see our families, and so that can be a little hard sometimes. You have to go for long periods without seeing them. Let's see what else. Most of us travel by train. So sometimes transportation can be an issue if you don't have access to a car or if you're in a place that doesn't have good public transportation. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize is when you're parked in a train yard, you don't have an address. And so if you're trying to get a cab or an Uber to come get you, you give them the closest address to the train yard, and then, they get there and you try to describe to them how to get into the train yard. You can hear, like, the fear and terror just building up in their voice as you're talking to them. That, some people think, because we don't always stay in the nicest areas, and so people are like, what are you bringing me to this train yard for? So some people will outright refuse to come get us if we're in a remote train yard, and so you kind of have to work around that and figure out ways to get to a place where an Uber will come get you if you need groceries. So yeah, just things like that. But I mean, it's really not that horrible. It just really takes some getting used to. That's the biggest thing. And then, of course, there are days when you have tons of shows in a row and you've got a long commute from the train to the arena, and so you're just really tired all week. But, I think that happens in any job, I could work in New York and be stuck in traffic every day of my life. So if it only happens once in a while, I'm not upset.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and it's such a different environment than what most of us work in, going into the office and doing that. Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's different, but also it does get repetitive to us as well. We do about 400 shows per year, and we're trying to make all those shows as similar as possible. And so sometimes we can get a little, we can be looking at our watches too, like, are we done yet?
Yeah.
But mostly we really enjoy it. It's just crazy every week. A lot of fun.
All right. Now that we've gone through the harder parts about your job, what do you love about your job?
Well, there are a lot of things that I enjoy about this job. One of them, like I said earlier, is traveling across the country by train. And although it can be a pain sometimes, most of the time it's awesome. You get to see a lot of America that you wouldn't see if you were traveling by car or by plane. You get to see stuff like off-roading kind of experience. You get to go through national parks that are closed to the public or don't have roads developed. You get to go through the wilderness. You pass through huge cities, see lots of farmland. There's a part of our train called the vestibule, and it's kind of like a porch, and that's where we can all go to sort of hang out. It's a little cramped out there sometimes, like if we're going through an especially scenic place. But it's where you can get some fresh air. The top speed of the train is something like 60 miles an hour, so you got the wind whipping through your face, and you get to see America going by under the rails and stuff, and it's just a really cool experience. One of my favorite memories actually is waking up one morning, and I thought the light in my room looked a little bit weird, like the light from outside, and I opened my curtain, and we were on Salt Lake, and it was just insane. It was very surreal, because I don't know if you've ever been to Salt Lake, but it looks very much like a mirror because of the high mineral content in the lake. And so to open my window and to just feel like we were floating on top of a mirror was amazing. And I think that if you were driving in a car, I don't think there's a road that goes through Salt Lake like we got to do. And so I think that was an experience we could only have on a train, and it was pretty wonderful. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. And another thing, of course, is visiting all these different cities. You get a feel for so many different types of cities in America. Everything from Boston to Grand Rapids, Michigan, to Fresno in California, to Newark, New Jersey, just everywhere. You get to see all different kinds of places and different types of cities. And it's fun to come back and repeat cities, too, so that you can see what's changed around the arenas that we play and just visit new places in each city that we go to. And so I've gotten to go to a lot of museums and do a lot of really great sightseeing just as part of traveling across the country. And so it's really neat to wake up in a different city every week. So those two things are both big hits with me. And then, of course, working with circus people themselves is really a privilege. These are some of the most hardworking people I've ever met. Incredible work ethic. And a lot of that stems from the fact that these jobs or these types of performances, these skills, are passed down through generations. And so it really just has a lot more value when you're watching, say, the high wire act, and you know that person is a fourth or fifth generation high wire artist, so 4 or 5 generations of his family have been performing that way. And, I don't do it myself, but I get to be a part of that just by being there. And so it's just really amazing to get to meet so many different people from different cultures and from different backgrounds, and to interact and live with these people on a daily basis. Just very, very cool.
Do some of them have their whole families with them? You said some were in RVs.
Yeah, actually, a lot of the people who travel by RV do have their families with them. I know some people on the train do as well, but the school offers, the circus offers schooling. And it's a K through 12 program. It's a homeschooling program, and we have teachers employed with the circus, and they have school probably today, actually, at the arena, wherever we stay for a week, and then their days off are days when we're traveling. And so circus parents will drop their kids off at the nursery during shows, or if their kids are older than that, they'll hang out at the school, and they've got homework just like normal kids. The only difference is they're studying in a different city every week. So you can earn your degree in the circus.
It's just such a different world.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Think about someone who's listening to this podcast, and do you have some advice for what kind of person succeeds in the job that you have?
I think the biggest thing, for just to be very general for a moment, and just working in the circus in general, you have to be prepared for change, constant drastic changes at all times. If traveling is scary to you, or living in a small space, or being in a different environment from city to extreme country to extreme noise to extreme quiet, if that's not going to work for you, then this is not a job for you. So you have to be able to adjust very quickly to rapidly changing circumstances. And that's just general. That's a blanket statement for the circus. As far as being a circus musician, I think that probably the best preparation for that might be, I could say working on a cruise ship, because we have a lot of cruise ship musicians, but I would say also maybe playing in a Broadway pit, or with actors, or some type of environment where you're going to have experience with paying close attention to the conductor, and dealing with things that we musicians call vamps, and that's when you repeat a phrase over and over until a performer performs a certain line or an action. And that's a lot of what we do in the circus, is react to what's happening basically on stage. So any type of gig like that is going to be pretty good preparation for being a musician in the circus. And also just being able to read music well and quickly, being able to learn your part as quickly as possible. I think that would go for any gig.
It's interesting how this really is almost two parts, the musician and the circus part. It's both very interesting.
Yeah, it's a job and it's a lifestyle, so it's very interesting that it's those two things. So you kind of have to both be prepared for both parts of it. It's not, you can't just have a job here, you also have to live here. So both of those are a big adjustment.
Well, we're getting near the end. Tell me, do you have any book recommendations that may or may not be job-related for our audience? I don't really have any job-related recommendations, unfortunately, because I work here. I haven't read many circus books. Let's see. For personal books, I would say I like Stephen Bruce, mostly because he's very sarcastic, kind of science fiction, fantasy-ish, and most of his books are very short. At the opposite end of that spectrum, I would say Neil Stephenson. He writes these gigantic science fiction books that are usually 800-plus pages, but they're awesome. They're a lot of fun, and if you need to kill some time over a long period of time, he's a great author to do it. So those are my two favorite books. As far as circus things, though, if I may recommend something that's not a book, Big Apple Circus a few years back put out a PBS documentary, and I think it's just called Circus. And you can watch it for free on their website. And it's a really good look at what a traveling circus is like on a day-to-day basis, and what it's like for various performers. I think at one point they even interview the kids in the school. So it's very good. And I think each episode is maybe an hour or two long. And I don't remember how many episodes, 6 or 8, but totally awesome. And I would definitely recommend it. I'll see if I can find the information and put it in the show notes.
Yeah, that should be, it should be on PBS somewhere. If you just search their site for circus, it should come right up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, so in your free time, do you have any hobbies that keep you busy?
I have a lot of things that I like to do. Mostly I like to explore different cities. If the weather's good, I like to walk around and just find whatever is random and interesting downtown. Like right now we're playing the Energy Arena, and so I'm probably going to go across the street to where the Fiesta Mart is. We don't have Fiesta everywhere in the country, and so it's always a fun time to go through that store. So exploring is my favorite thing to do. When the train's moving, There's not a whole lot you can do because you can't get off the train while it's moving, but I have a lot of books I like to read. Many friends have given me some of those adult coloring books, and
Yeah.
those are actually pretty fun. I'm left-handed, so I tend to smear things a little bit, but hey, I have fun doing it. It's not an art competition, so I've got those. And I do a lot of writing, like for my circus blog, and I also write on a site called Quora, which is just a question-answer site. And yeah, I really enjoy writing and reading and kind of quiet activities, and also just exploring wherever we go. And those are some of my favorite things to do.
When you're actually with the train moving, do you have internet access at that time?
I have what's called a hotspot, which is kind of a little wireless box thing that I stick in my window. And most of the time it gets pretty good service. When we're going through national parks or mountainous areas or the desert, sometimes I lose signal. So you can go for quite a while without signal. So I just don't depend on it. If it's available, that's great. And I can, watch YouTube for a little while or something. But usually on a train run, I'll try to go without it. I've learned to go without it. And actually I haven't been on a train run for quite some time. So I should also mention that another of my favorite hobbies is traveling with my boyfriend across the country. He's brought his car onto the road, which is a little bit expensive, but since we're both splitting the cost, it's not so bad. So we'll usually plan some trips. Last year we went to the Grand Canyon together. This year when we came down to Houston, we made a stop in Lafayette to try out some seafood. And it's just, we try to plan little fun activities on the road. So sightseeing across the country, a lot of fun.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom for those who might be interested in this as a career, either being a musician or in the circus? Or
Yeah, I would say just, first of all, don't be afraid to apply, whether you think you're ready or not. It doesn't matter because nobody's going to wait for you to be ready. So just apply anyway because you never know. That's how I got this job, and so I would definitely recommend it to anyone. Just apply, and then if you would like to do something extra to try and get the job, you can try to contact circus people or send in recordings as a musician. Go see a show and watch the musicians. You can usually come up and introduce yourself to the musicians and talk to them as well. We're on the floor for the entire show, and we're usually around during pre-show as well. So I would say just, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and get a feel for what the job would be like if you're interested in it, and then apply because we don't actually have all that many resumes on file. So it never hurts to put your stuff in so that we can have a look.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all your time today. Do you have a way that people can contact you if they have questions or, want to leave comments?
Sure, yeah. Anyone can look me up on Facebook. My name's Megan O'Malley. I'm probably the only one that's in the circus that you're going to find just by searching on Facebook. And in addition to that, I have a circus blog that I've kept from the very first day that I joined the circus. So 4 years worth of blogging about the circus that you can check out. And that is at trombonemegan.com. Pretty easy. Trombone's what I play and Megan's my name. So you can just go there and check it out. You can send me a message there or on Facebook if you like. And, I'll answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Okay. And Megan is Megan.
That's correct. Yep.
They can leave a comment if they want to on the ilovemyjobpodcast.com. We'll have an episode page for that. But thank you so much. I have learned just a lot about this lifestyle and what you do. And I guess that this is an example of, again, don't expect for people to post jobs. I love that you found the job and there wasn't even a job posting out there and you took the initiative. And I think that's a good lesson for folks that they should just reach out and network and try to find other areas, think of something outside the box.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. I don't get to do this very often. So I feel very lucky to have this job, and every day is just, I appreciate it so much. So thank you very much for taking time to talk to me.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Wasn't that an incredible interview? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to run off to the circus? Well, now we all know someone who is in the circus. If you want to get to know me better, just send me an email, Cassie at CassieCrossley.com. CassieCrossley.com. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. Thank you and have a great day.